or season, but the actual solstice, I understand, is only a momentary reality when that sun is in that precise place, and then it changes. So how do we practice this sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha practice? It's the reality of our life is that life and death are not separate. Sickness and health are not separate. We don't have one opposing the other. So when you find your place where you are, Dogen says, that's when practice occurs. We actualize that fundamental point, that solstice, that time, every moment. So sometimes it's sun-faced practice and moon-faced practice, or positive or negative, or it feels good or it doesn't feel good. Not to be swayed by this is the art of practice. So, when we realize that, Dogen says, when all of these the essence of our practice, our art form practice, then we could say there's no delusion, or just sun-faced Buddha and moon-faced Buddha. That's the surface reality. So to carry yourself forward, to have as a young practitioner, I wanted to carry myself forward, and I wanted to find practice in some fashion. Dogen says this is a kind of delusion. It might work, but it's really delusion. Allowing the life to appear as an example of practice, that's awakening. But for that, we need to have a sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha practice, not just one or the other. So it's the practice to Dogen says is to leap clear of these so-called differences and live completely in our skin. So we have to say at some point, this is very much a moon-faced Buddha today. But the sun-faced Buddha hasn't disappeared. This is a winter that's going to be very difficult, if it isn't already. So it seems difficult and treacherous sometimes. And it is. It's moon-faced Buddha time. But we are also sun-faced Buddhas. So Dogen teaches us that we should arouse this so-called thought of enlightenment, this feeling, that my practice is not contingent on me finding it and making it last. Calling myself a Buddhist and then trying to find Buddhism. That was okay when I was younger because I really needed, more than anything, a discipline. I needed to root myself, and my teachers were very good about that. But they were also very good at keeping me away from the tendency to define practice. So by not defining it, they were encouraging me to see practice as the world of impermanence, the same. The thought of enlightenment, Dogen said, has many names, but they all refer to one mind. This is, by the way, if you want to study more about this, this piece of it is the guidelines for studying the way, Dogen Zenji's guidelines for studying the way, Gakudo Yo Jinshu, if you want to know that. He said, don't concern yourself too much. When you hear something beautiful, enjoy it, but don't hatch onto it. When you hear something not so beautiful, understand it, but don't hang on to it. Even if you read all the sutras, he said, even if you think you're going to gain something from it, that's a pitfall. or if you're going to find practice, that's a pitfall. And then he kind of puts down the whole kind of idea that we all want to do, define it. He said, some people say that the thought of enlightenment is the mind of the supreme perfect enlightenment. He said, do not be concerned with anything else. Or the thought of enlightenment is the mind entering the Buddha way. So he said, that's actually wrong. Try to reflect on your own life. Does one thought, does your thought of enlightenment blend with your situation, with your life situation? Does it realize this sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha, or one or the other? He calls it kind of greedy practice, kind of a greedy, I want to be awake, I want enlightenment. This want should take away. And just sit in your skin. It's not so easy. We in our life, we are taught that you need to have a technique, a methodology, a place, a way, define it, package it somehow, and then you rely on it like a nourishment. But that's not the way of Zen practice. So nevertheless, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha, so yin-yang, balance of life. We still understand we're humans. We have to have some way to continue our practice through this life that's constantly changing. So we could at least go to the teaching and say, so Master Ma, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha, that's fine and dandy, but we also need to have a sun-faced practice, a positive way of looking at our life and identify those areas. This is not a kind of, we're not trying to blend into nothingness. So there are these 8 qualities. They're sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha qualities. Freedom, 8 of them, I think. The first one is freedom from greed. So I was a young practitioner. I was very important because I really drew a line in the sand. I said, I'm not going to let things distract me. I'm going to sit zazen and I'm going to do it every day. And I did. But it's also kind of greedy practice. I shut an awful lot out, to do that. It's a kind of an unlimited desire is a way of suffering. If we have an unlimited desire for something like enlightenment, that's also kind of greed. Trying to look at ourselves in the mirror and not see anti-practice. Difficult. The second, he said, is being satisfied, knowing when to say, what is it used to say? Knowing when to say when. When. We should all say when. We do this when we've had enough in the zendo. And they're pouring tea and the third one is enjoy your a time of serenity. Some time when you can enjoy some time of balance. Like, the solstice, is a big effect on our life. The days are short, the night is long. People, this time in the ancient times, they'd starve during this time. It was a very difficult time to be alive. So enjoy some time of serenity, of calmness, of evenness. We all have a different place for that, but it's important to elevate it, especially now. And the fourth is kind of back to that first effort, diligence. In my young practice, diligence meant excluding as much as I could. But actual diligence is to include as much as you can. It's different. Like a little bit at a time. You expand that circle, more and more of your life, good or bad, warts and all, become practice. And the fifth is, I don't know what the word, preserving awareness. Does that make any sense? Like we say in our practice, this is not a deluge practice. It's a mist practice, a trickle of water practice. But even a trickle of water, as they say, could wear away a mountain slowly. That's preserving our awareness, is getting back to the others. It means, don't be so greedy, and try to practice some modicum of satisfaction, and that's your diligence. The sixth, so the fifth is this: preserve your awareness. The sixth one is practicing samadhi. Samadhi is not the same as meditation. We kind of combined the two in Zen, but we combine everything in Zen. But they're very different. Samadhi is an even, seamless consciousness. So that young practitioner that I was had lots of seams everywhere. Trying to, stitch together something called practice. But sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha is that kind of samadhi. Stay close to your practice by not moving away from it just because you think your situation doesn't match something called practice. And the eighth is maybe, these days, maybe the most important one. Refrain from careless or flippant speech. That's maybe for us, that's maybe the most important thing, which also means don't listen to it. Frivolous speech, Buddha said, is like the clouds of our mind. The clouds of our mind. We don't understand because it's just careless speech we keep hearing. Those are the eight. They're not separate. Like the Eightfold Path, they're not separate. And they're not meant to, overwhelm the moon-faced Buddha part of our life. This practice is not the mind of some supreme way of living. It's not a kind of entering a special universe at the kind of expense of another. How are you today? Oh, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. Everything is easy and difficult. So we say it's easy. When you find your place where you are, then your practice occurs. And we can actualize what the fundamental point of this practice is, if we want to define it at all, is our true nature is right in front of us. Saying it and actualizing it are two separate things. We are brought up and raised in this moon-faced Buddha, sun-faced Buddha world, and we are expected to find one and get rid of the other. So we're tired and exhausted. It's a very difficult way to practice. Unless, of course, you're very young, then I'll tell you to practice that way. Go ahead, draw a line in the sand, it's good for you. But as you get older, these kind of ways of practicing are not as useful. We're not trying to cancel anything out. So we can easily be healthy and content and serene if we don't try to battle the opposite. And of course, sitting zazen, is neither sun-faced or moon-faced. It's just Buddha. That's all. One night, who was it, Helene? Was it Anne? She wanted to come to get instruction in Zen. Remember her? So this priest we know, Anne Myoshu. She was came to my teacher's temple as a neighbor. She was walking by the temple and she peered over the gate and saw teacher sweeping, and she said, "What is this?" And he said, "Oh, it's a Zen temple." And she said, "Can I come in?" "Yes, of course." And she said, "I really want to learn how to do this." He said, "Fine. The Zendo door's open, go sit. You're already Buddha." Well, I don't think that that's some instruction that most of us would appreciate. Nevertheless, that is the nature of our practice. We don't have a technique or a methodology. We just sit where we are. That's our practice. So we can express, how are you feeling today? Maybe we say, this is moon-faced Buddha day for me. Or sun-faced Buddha, but we never leave the other behind. That balance. I was curious to see what have they done in Solstice in say China. And I was surprised to one I heard was that they don't look at it as one or the other. They look at it as yin is elevated, yang is not. Yang is elevated, yin is not. Different seasons, but they never separate them. So they enjoy a cold, dark, and then they take a warm bath. Hot springs or something. They try to find that balance. How do we, if we're sick, we're not going to sit back and say, look, this Master Ma, oh, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha, we're going to make an effort to get well. But the enemy is not the sickness. The enemy is our deluded way of thinking, this view of separateness that pits ourselves against life. It's normal, but it's not necessary. I suppose when I was younger, if somebody would have said to me, don't concern yourself with trying to figure this out, just sit zazen, I would have probably not done it. I would have probably still went out and searched. So they just gave me a wide boundary to practice in and encouraged me not to try to find too much definition. So I just sat. And these koans were helpful. What can we do to improve our lives is a question that we should always ask ourselves. For Zen practice, improving means balance, harmony and balance. To do that, we want to recognize both sun-faced Buddha, very long, healthy time. Moon-faced Buddha, short. You can't have one without the other. Okay. Practice, this is called diligent practice. So, and without your practice, without your practice, Buddhist teaching doesn't exist. This doesn't exist here, or in these notes either. It exists, as Dogen says, when you find the place where you are. Then practice occurs and you can actualize. We need some confidence in ourselves, which is, by the way, the definition of faith in Buddhism, confidence. The scientific world doesn't value that so much. It wants answers. We just have confidence in our practice. Every day we sit if we can, no time frame. And little by little, our life appears to us as practice, and we do less and less searching for it. Then we can have a sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha practice, which is actually just practicing us. That means, I think, how we take care of ourselves. Very important to do. Okay, thank you. Please.
Merit extend universally to all, so that we, together with all beings, realize the Buddha way. Beings are
numbers. I vow to freedom.
delusions are exhausted. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to enter them. Buddha's way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize.
Okay. Question? No? How many? Oh, 1, 2, 3. Everybody. Can everybody see each other?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sometimes I wonder. So,
Kotoku, could you hold up the book again real quickly?
yeah.
Thank you.
I think this is all the volumes. I'm not. There used to be. I had 4 volumes. I think this must be all. Maybe this is all the volumes. This was Mayazumi Roshi wrote the foreword to this book. He was what is the name of that? White Plum line of teaching. He started that White Plum line of teaching. A Los Angeles teacher. Okay. Okay. Did you want to say something? So this year, this time last year, we were planning for, of course, the coming year, what to do. This year seems harder to plan, but we we'll try to have more online classes. The Heart Sutra. John is going to do the Lankavatara Sutra, and what was the other one? Heart Sutra. Oh, two-part. Heart Sutra, 2-part. One, unpacking it, so we see the different pieces of it, and the second is what does it mean for practitioners, and then that's all of our input. Okay, makes sense. And well, John, are you there? I don't see him.
John, you're muted.
Oh, there you are. You're planning on the Lankavatara Sutra soon, next year? Oh, he's muted. He's got to unmute him. Wait a minute. I can't unmute him. He's not muted. Can you send him a text?
There we
There
go.
he is. Okay, there you are.
Sorry. Yeah, we're going to switch over to Awakening Faith in the Mahayana.
Oh, right.
This will be a lot easier than the Lankavatara.
That's right.
So,
Hmm.
thought we needed a break.
The Awakening of Faith.
Yeah, Ashvagosa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not a very difficult one at all. It's only about maybe that thick. You know, it's
Yes,
very
it's,
short. Yeah.
it's a good one, though.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Self-realization. Can you say something about self-realization?
Is yourself not real?
I guess not.
It's curious.
That's a
Not-
curious way to exist, huh?
What is that?
I'm not real.
What is that Bodhidharma? Maybe was it Bodhidharma? Someone came to him and said, my mind is very confused. Please pacify it for me. And he said, well, fine. Bring me your mind and I'll pacify it for you. And he said, well, I can't find my own mind. He said, there, I pacified it. It's
Yeah.
self-realization. Self-realization, I think, you know, that's what Dogen keeps telling us about. If we want to realize ourselves and we go out to try to do that, we're going to not realize it all the time.
Mm.
It's a kind of a trap because we lead with our brain and we want to define self and realization separately. We want to combine them and then we want to find it and then we'll be happy.
To learn to be happy without finding it.
We can be happy without, we're happy without finding it and with finding it, but that's sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha.
Okay.
Being comfortable in your own skin is self-realization. But
Thank
defining it is a shame.
Yeah. I'm gonna mute myself again
I'm gonna mute myself too.
before I get into more trouble than I already am.
Okay. So
So